Hi, welcome to another episode of Straight Lions Talk. This is where we only talk Detroit Lions football. Today we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions 2015 offense and what can we expect this year. If you follow me on Twitter, please leave comments. If not, I'm on YouTube, on my YouTube page. Go ahead and leave comments too. I'd really encourage that. I'd really like to get some commentary with you guys when you see the videos, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, good or bad. Please leave some comments. But what can we expect out of the Detroit Lions offense this season? Second year offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi's back. We've revamped the offensive line. We've added to the wide receivers. We've addressed offensive positions in the draft. What can we expect of the 2015 Lions offense this season, which was such a struggle last season, which was supposed to be a strength for us, ended up being a struggle. We just were not a good offense. We ranked about 19th overall. And we ranked 28th in the run and 12th in the pass. We gave up 45 sacks with an offensive line that was supposed to be one of the best in the league and ended up being just god-awful. But one of the players I'm happy to see go is Dominic Raiola. I am so happy that guy's gone. I can't describe it to you. I never heard anyone say, man, you guys are lucky to have Dominic Raiola as your center. They were like, man, I'm really glad you guys had Dominic Raiola as your center because he was terrible. I'm so happy Raiola's gone. I can't describe it. I think Travis Swanson's going to do a much better job at that position on the offensive line. But today we're just going to talk about the Lions offensive line, the Detroit Lions offense. And let's get into it right now. What can we expect out of the Lions offense this year? What are some of the things you guys would like to see happen? Me personally, I'd love to see us go more no huddle. I think that's where Matt Stafford thrives, is in the no huddle. I think he plays better in that rhythm, and I think he plays better and he thinks better when he starts getting into that no huddle rhythm. You know, the defenses get a little less complicated at that point. I think it almost helps his accuracy. It gets him into more of a rhythm. We all know Matt Stafford is not an accurate quarterback. That's probably his biggest downfall as a quarterback. But as of last year, offensive line was his biggest downfall as a quarterback. And I've heard a lot of people comment on it, but the one thing that a quarterback can't stand is pressure up the middle. And that's where all the pressure came from Matt Stafford last year, was up the middle. Why? Because Dominic Raiola was our center. And Rob Sims didn't have a stellar year. Larry Warford was hurt. So what can we expect out of the Lions offensive line this year? A few of the changes we've made, we drafted Laken Tomlinson in the draft out of Duke to play guard, to probably take Rob Sims' spots, what it's looking like. The year before, 2 years ago, we drafted Larry Warford, which was a steal in the third round. His rookie season was phenomenal, but actually was injured a lot last season. So, you know, where's he going to be? Is he going to be an injury guy, or is that just a fluke sophomore slump? What's it going to be? Is he going to be as good or better than he was as a rookie? Adrian Waddle, again, was a surprise. An undrafted free agent came in, took over the right side of the offensive line for us 2 years ago, and had a ton of success. And all of us thought, man, finally we have a right tackle, finally. Because the best right tackle we had prior to that was probably Goster Cherilus. But when Waddle came in out of Texas Tech, we all thought, hey, great, we have a good a good right tackle over there. Can he develop even further? Injured a lot last year. It was a revolving door over there. I felt bad for Stafford. A lot of pressure came from that right side also. Riley Reif didn't play up to potential last year. He seems like he's maybe taking a step back in this new offense. I don't know if it doesn't fit him right. I know the Lions have been down on him the whole offseason. I personally like Riley Reif. I like him a little bit better as a guard. I liked him better as a right tackle coming out of the draft. But he's done a very good job on the left side. I know everyone always says, go get a left tackle, go get a left tackle. Well, there's a reason those left tackles are taken so early when they're awesome. You just don't find one. If you do get lucky enough to find one in the late rounds, then that's great for you. But for the most part, those guys are noticed right off the bat, and they're almost as big a commodity as a top D end and a top quarterback. Well, if you have the top quarterback, then obviously you want the top left tackle to protect the quarterback. But the Lions offense this season, the offensive line's been remade. We have one of the youngest offensive lines. This is kind of the projected lineup. It's probably going to be Riley Reif at left tackle. Left guard will be Laken Tomlinson. Travis Swanson will play center. Larry Warford will play right guard. And right tackle will be Adrian Waddle, more than likely. We also got Maynard Ramirez in the trade when we traded down in this year's draft. And we traded down with the Denver Broncos, and we selected Laken Tomlinson, but they also gave us Maynard Ramirez, which is a good player to have. That gives us a lot of veteran leadership at the position, and it also gives us depth at the guard positions and at the center position, which is something we desperately needed last year. The guard position was kind of shaky at times. We had Garrett Reynolds over. That guy was just god-awful. I'm so glad he's gone too. I don't think our offensive line is going to be worse, but it is very young. I think it's going to go either way. I think they're going to really struggle this year, or they're going to be really good. My early gut feeling is they're going to be really good. I think the youth and athleticism within Joe Lombardi's offense is going to fit very well. I think he likes having a young offensive line. I think he likes having a mobile offensive line, a line that can get out and pull and do certain things and play action on sweeps and on draws and a lot of different things. I think this offensive line is going to do things and be able to get to the second level more than offensive lines in the past the Lions have had, which in turn should help Matt Stafford play a little bit better this year. And hopefully in the second year in Joe Lombardi's system, he'll be able to mature within the system and be the quarterback we all hoped he will become. Speaking of Joe Lombardi, this is his second season. Lions offense struggled a lot last year. The running game was dreadful. We addressed a lot of that problem this year with the additions in the offensive line, and we drafted Amir Abdullah out of the University of Nebraska. And right now it looks like he may be the featured back for Detroit. The Lions brought in Ben Tate this last week, and that was an indication. It kind of raised an eyebrow for me. Nothing came out of Lions camp that said that Joique Bell was hurt. All they're saying is being cautious with him and that he's right on schedule. And sometimes when the guy's right on schedule, it doesn't look good for Joique Bell right now as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it's just me being pessimistic, but I've also heard things that there's problems with his ankle. It didn't heal right, and he's having problems with his Achilles tendon now. And plus, from all reports I've heard, he is out of shape from not being able to run and do the things he normally does in the offseason. He's been held out of all nine of the OTAs the Lions have had. I kind of feel bad for him because I was really hoping this would be his breakout season in the NFL. He's earned it. He's been our best running back by far the last two seasons. I was really, really hoping Joique Bell was going to be our feature back this year. I think he would have set the tone for our offense. And then mixing a little Amir Abdullah as a rookie in the passing game and some others, maybe in the run, because he's a very effective runner, even on the inside. But it looks like right now the Lions are going with Amir Abdullah is probably going to be the feature back. Now, I have to pose a question to everyone out there, and it's a sensitive subject, but he has paid his due to society, and he did his punishment with the NFL. There's a running back sitting out there right now that the Detroit Lions would probably fit very well within their system, and the head coach is very familiar with, which is Ray Rice. What he did was just terrible. It was a terrible, terrible thing. But the one thing you have to keep in mind is the woman he punched did marry him. And he paid his debt to society. He did all the time he was supposed to do. He did all the punishments. He did everything the NFL told him to do. The one thing he did do is lie. Now, maybe there's a reason we haven't signed Ray Rice, and I read an article that Jim Caldwell said that he would not sign Ray Rice, and maybe he knows something. I'm just throwing it out there. If Joique Bell is not going to be able to play this season, I would look into signing Ray Rice, I guess, I would take the temperature in the room and see, and maybe bring him in and see where he's at. Um, it's an option for us. I don't think we can go into the season with, if we did sign Ben Tate, Amir Abdul, and Theo Riddick as our running backs and George Wynn. That would spell last in the league in rushing as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure Amir Abdul is going to be a very good running back in the NFL. He should be if he can stay healthy, but I don't think he can be our feature back this early in his career. If he can, great, but I would rather go in with more of a veteran running back like Rice or maybe someone else, Steven Jackson. Those options are out there. Joe Lombardi, he's coming into a second season as a Lions offensive coordinator. I think we were all guilty of thinking that since he came from the Saints, that the Lions offense was going to resemble the Saints offense in some way, which it did, and the fact that there were flashes and times when, man, it was explosive, but then we go through two quarters probably where the offense was just dead, and then you show flashes. I think one of the biggest problems the offense had is we were ineffective at tight end. The tight end position last year was horrific. We had Joseph Fourier, who showed so much promise as a rookie, especially in the red zone, be hurt most of the season with an ankle injury. Eric Ebron never lived up to all the draft hype and how he was supposed to be the next Jimmy Graham / Vernon Davis. It never lived up, and early indications in camp is he's dropping a lot of balls again. I don't know if the guy needs LASIK eye surgery or what, but he should maybe look into that. The one thing about Eric Ebron, too, is he's not a natural catcher of the ball. If you watch him catch balls, he doesn't absorb the ball. He swats at the ball when he catches it. And we have Brandon Pettigrew, who caught 4 passes last year and was really just an inline blocker, which he does very well, but is kind of not even a tight end. He's just more of a extra tackle or guard to have in on certain pass plays or running plays. How is Joe Lombardi's offense going to work when the tight end's such a huge position in that offense? I mean, look over the years what the Saints have done with Jimmy Graham at that position. That's kind of how the offense was predicated and ran around, which Jimmy Graham is a great player, but the offense was more built around the running backs and speedy receivers, and we don't really have that. Golden Tate's there. We just picked up Lance Moore in the offseason. I think he's going to be a good addition for us. We've always needed that receiver in the slot, and if he can stretch the field and take the top off the defense in the slot position with his speed, I know he's a little bit older, but he's still pretty fast. If he can stay healthy and he can do that, that will open up things for Calvin Johnson. It'll open up things in the passing game with the running backs. It'll open up things for the tight ends. I think that was always a need for us. T.J. Jones could be a nice addition in that position. Ryan Broyles has had a very good camp. He had a good camp last year. I don't know what the problem with Ryan Broyles was last year, if they were trying to make sure he was 100% healthy and have him kind of sit on the bench and play sporadically here and there throughout the year and not push him too hard. But all indications in camp right now is he's having a very good camp. And maybe he'll come back and be a big surprise for us. That would sure be nice if he lived up to the potential he had coming out of college now for us. That's exactly the shot in the arm we would need, a consistent receiver that can run routes, catch balls, and find the soft spots in the zones when there's trouble for Stafford. We all know about Golden Tate, came in last year from Seattle and absolutely had a breakout season with us. He fits Joe Lombardi's system very well. Like I said, it was predicated. I think his system was predicated on speedy small receivers getting open, and that's exactly what he did. Him and Stafford seemed to have a natural connection. They didn't struggle in their first season together at all. I would love to have Golden Tate I'd love to have him have better numbers than last year, but if he had identical numbers, I would not be upset. I think that would be a great season for him if he could match last year's offensive output with the receiving yards and touchdowns. That would be perfect for us. We all know we have Calvin Johnson. He's a beast. We all know that. The biggest question with Calvin is he turns 30 this year. can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy for a full season, play every game without being dinged up to the point where he can't play or he's ineffective in games when he does play due to his injuries? I had a show, I don't know, 5 weeks ago, that I suggested we should trade Calvin Johnson in the show, and that was probably the most response I had to any show I've had. I still believe it. You guys can all question it and shake your heads and say Stafford can't throw to anybody else and all that. Here's the gap. Here's the problem with Calvin Johnson, guys. He's the best receiver in the NFL when he's healthy. He's one of my favorite Lions of all time. But the problem is he's due a ton of money the next 2 years. He's due $23 million this next season, this next offseason. He can't stay healthy. Every time, since the league won't let guys hit high anymore, everyone hits him in the knees, and it seems like every single time, and you guys know it. When he gets hit after he catches the ball and he gets hit low and he lays there, we all think, oh, did he just get hit? Did he just blow his knee out? What's wrong? Is he injured? And that seems to happen more often now than it did prior. The only reason I want to trade him early is because he has such tremendous trade value. The only thing holding back the trade would probably be his salary. We have him this season. I'm glad to have him. We're not going to trade him as of this season. But the one thing I want you guys to think about is if Calvin Johnson has an identical year this season to the one he had last year, identical, injuries, yards, everything, would you say we need to keep Calvin, or would you say maybe it's time we trade Calvin? That's the only thing I'm throwing out there. I'm glad to have Calvin Johnson back. I was just looking at other alternatives. Maybe trade a guy early, look to the future a little bit more with this young offensive line, a young quarterback. We have Golden Tate, Eric Ebron's here if he can become what we hope he can become. That was all I was getting at in those episodes. But if he had the identical year with his age and his salary due, I think this offseason, if he's injured during the season, in the offseason, you're going to hear a lot of people say, hey, maybe we should look at trading Calvin Johnson. I was just looking to do it a year sooner, but I'm glad to have him back. But with all that said, the Lions offense under Joe Lombardi this season, here's a few things I hope the Lions do this offseason to help their offense get going. I would love to see them be more consistent with their no huddle. I think Stafford plays better in that. I always have. I think he's a rhythm quarterback, but I would love to see that incorporated more where Matthew Stafford can call, as Tom Brady does and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, can just decide on a whim, hey, I like the defense they're giving me. I want to go no huddle. And I hope Joe Lombardi gives him that freedom a little bit more. And with being in second year in the offense, I think it's going to help Stafford. Stafford looks to be in great, great, great shape this season. This is the trimmest and fittest I've ever seen him. You know, Stafford is kind of the Teflon quarterback for the Lions. It seems like nothing's his fault, and he does have his faults. The one thing I'll say, though, is last year the offensive line didn't give him a bunch of help, and maybe some of that was his fault, but he did cut down on his interceptions. His footwork looked better. He looked more comfortable and moved more in the pocket last season than he did probably since his second season, his breakout season. I still think he can take that next step. I know a lot of guys think the ceiling, he's already hit his ceiling. But the one thing you have to remember is Aaron Rodgers sat on the bench for 4 years in Green Bay. Everyone forgets that. He had 4 years to just sit there and learn, absorb all that information. Where Stafford's had to come in and play on bad teams for the Lions, you know. The year he was drafted, we just came up in 0-16 season. That roster wasn't stellar. And we slowly built it, and I put a lot of blame on Stafford. No one was more frustrated with him last year than me. I would like to see him take a more of a leadership role with the guys and be more consistent, as we all would. But for all intent and purposes, Matthew Stafford is the best Lions quarterback we've ever had. Ever. He's the best quarterback any of us can remember. And any of you guys that want to complain about Matt Stafford, I understand it, but here's the problem. Who would you rather be? You want to be the Cleveland Browns again? You want to search for a quarterback and go into the season with Josh McCown as our quarterback and Johnny Manziel sitting on the bench coming out of rehab. Is that what you guys want? I mean, we can go through and play a game of what quarterback would you rather have. I mean, do that one day with your buddies. Go through every team and say, what quarterback would you rather have? I think you'll be shocked about how often you say Matthew Stafford's name. I don't want to go back to the days of having John Kitna as our starting quarterback and everyone telling me that, hey, he could be nice. No, he can't be nice. The guy's terrible. I just can't stand that. Matthew Stafford's the best quarterback this franchise has ever had. That any of us can remember, he's the best quarterback. That's why he shattered almost every record a quarterback's had, and some of them are just putrid, just terrible records because we never had any consistency at quarterback. I'll agree. Matthew Stafford needs to play better and needs to be more of a leader and play more consistent for this team to take the next step it needs to take. But also, some of the pieces around him need to step up also. We need leadership on the offensive line. The wide receivers need a leader. We need guys like that. We need an offensive coordinator that can use his strengths to his advantage and not make him do things he's uncomfortable with. So, with all that said, I would love to see Matthew Stafford play in a more of a no-huddle system and play more out of the shotgun than he has in years past. I've always thought that was his strength, and I think it'll be something that we'll see in the season coming forward. The running game, on the other hand, boy, that was atrocious last year. There's no rhythm to it. Reggie Bush, I think he's getting to that point in his career where he doesn't really want to play football anymore. He's just trying to get those last few years and those last few high-dollar paychecks to come in. He had a couple good seasons for us, but last year Reggie Bush was just god-awful. And Joique Bell was very good, but he couldn't stay healthy throughout the season. It seemed like he was always nicked up just a little bit, so it slowed him down. I love Joique Bell. He's a great story. I really am happy for him getting this opportunity this year. I just hope he can stay healthy, and I hope he comes into camp healthy 100% and doesn't have nagging injuries this season, which I'm kind of afraid he might end up being that way. Like I said, we had Amir Abdullah. We picked up Lance Moore. Eric Ebron is going to be the key to this. Like I said earlier in this show, Eric Ebron has some drop issues right now. But I will say, another challenge for you guys, go and look at Jimmy Graham, Antonio Gates, and Vernon Davis especially, his first 3 years, and how bad these guys were. Maybe not Gates as much, but Vernon Davis especially. Go look at his first 3 years. That was a top 5 pick, and that guy was just terrible. And then after Singletary threw him out of the game, his whole attitude changed. I will say, early interviews with Eric Ebron last year, I thought he was a little immature. Came in with a little bit too big a head. I think his agent and all the press were talking him up so much. I think he believed some of it. I think he did have some humble pie last year. He looks to be in great shape. All reports are that he is in great physical shape. He just needs to be able to catch the ball and be more consistent catching the ball. We don't need a bunch of drops. That's something the Lions struggle with. I don't think Matt Stafford throws the most catchable ball at times. Even when it hits him in the hands, I think it has so much velocity to it that it actually is not a very catchable ball. Eric Ebron is going to be the key to this offense working. I think that's why we took him over Odell Beckham and Aaron Donald, is because we need that tight end that can stretch the middle of the field. So for this offense to work, and it's predicated so much on the tight end, I think Eric Ebron's going to need to step up. I don't think he does. I know he does. He needs to take that next step this season. Maybe 600 yards, 8 touchdowns, somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be breakout. That can come next year. But for the Lions to take that next step in the playoffs and maybe possibly have a home field advantage this year, the whole offense is going to need to click. That offensive line with our schedule and some of the teams we play, we go up to Seattle. We play out west 3 times. That's going to be a tough schedule. We play over in London once. That's going to be tough. We need a good offensive line because a good offensive line travels well. I would love to see the Lions make a move during training camp when some of these other guys get cut. I think we need a little more depth at running back. I understand that Theo Riddick was a was a nice piece because everyone was so mad at Reggie Bush last year, and he came in and did a lot of things that we were hoping Reggie Bush was going to be able to do. But I don't know if Theo Riddick is going to be that answer there that we need to take us to the promised land. I think he's a nice piece for the Lions. He's a very good player. I think he's a player you need on your team. You need to have a guy like Theo Riddick. But you also need two guys that can just go after it in the running back position. I think Theo Riddick has his situations he'll be good at. But I think that's one of the reasons I know what? If Theo Riddick was so great, we wouldn't have drafted Amir Abdullah. So ultimately, with Amir Abdullah and Joique Bell, I like that combination, but I do think we need one more piece. So for the offense to be dominant this year, a few of the keys are going to be, can the offensive line be more consistent? Can they cut those sacks in half for Matt Stafford? Can they open up holes for the running game? Can the receivers stay healthy, especially Calvin Johnson, for a whole season? Is Lance Moore going to be able to just duplicate the seasons he's had in years past? Is he going to be able to be a weapon for Matt Stafford? Can Ryan Broyles come in and make a difference? Can we find that receiver, that diamond in the rough receiver that can have a big year for us and help take some of the pressure off Stafford and help take some of the pressure off Calvin Johnson? Because when he's double teamed, we need these other guys to step up. So for the Lions offense this year, I really think we'll be a top 10 offense. I'm going to make a prediction that Matthew Stafford will be a top 10 quarterback this season. I really believe in the kid. He's coming in great shape. I'm just looking forward to this offseason coming up. I'm excited about the offense. Amir Abdullah should be a beast for us as a rookie. I think he fits the offense very well and what we want to do. I think he's going to be a little Darren Sproles with a little Peter Thomas mixed in for us, if that gives you any indication on how he's going to be. Joique Bell's going to need to be healthy for us to have any success. If not, we're going to have to pick up another running back, and whether it's free agency, via trade, something to help us move along the offense, because we have to run the football. That was something that really killed us. Teams knew we couldn't run the football. They weren't sending extra guys in the box. They were actually dropping them back. That did not help Matthew Stafford any. That wouldn't help Tom Brady. That wouldn't help anybody. So with all that said, I'd love to hear what you guys think the Lions offense will be this season. I personally think we'll have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. And with the way our schedule is, we're going to need that. We play a very tough schedule this season. Early predictions, Calvin Johnson will have another breakout season for the Lions. Matthew Stafford will be a top 10 quarterback. And the Lions offense will be a top 10 offense this season. So thank you for joining me. I welcome all your comments and all your feedback. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter @Straight Lions Talk. I thank you for joining me, and we'll talk again. Thank you.